closing up last year's audit. It's finalized. The audit process is a continuous cycle. I think the external audit was finalized and signed off on about 2 weeks ago, and on April 2nd we have the entrance conference for this year's audit. So there's always a lot of activity going on around the audits. One of the things that University Accounting and Financial Reporting asks that you do, are we on one? Should I go back?
Yeah.
One of the things that University Accounting and Financial Reporting asks that you do is to share with us any of the external consultant and audit service provider reports that you get. There's information about that on the website. I'm not going to read all of this information, but if you have questions about that, if you've had external consultants related to financial activity, let me know and I can get you connected with that process. And those are my comments for today, so we can move right into the presentations. Which is always challenging for me. John Hockersmith, I think I saw you walk in. John, are you ready? Have you had time to catch your breath?
Yes.
Okay, so John Hockersmith is up next. Update on payments to students process changes.
Hi, so we were really hoping to have something published by now, updates to our payments to students webpage on the OBFS website. But there's been several delays, and it's been about a year since I spoke with this group the last time, so we thought it would be a courteous thing to do to explain why there's still nothing published on this topic. The reasons for the delay. We're still working on clarifying how travel and other research payments to students should be processed. Specifically when either the payment is coming from a scholarship fund or when the student is the primary beneficiary. Right now, the process is that they all need to be processed through the financial aid office or USFSCO's student account payment request form. That's the only way we have to make sure that we comply with Department of Ed requirements for treating payments to students as a resource and to ensure that they get reported on IRS Form 1098-T. So we're still clarifying that. Then there were recent questions on the Urbana campus regarding a doctoral dissertation research improvement grant and who exactly was the primary beneficiary, the university or the student. And there was enough confusion that we actually had to hire external counsel to review it and to make a determination. And the determination is that the student is the primary beneficiary. Even though as a research institution, we, the university, do definitely benefit from research grants like the NSF-DDR-IG. Even so, the student is still the primary beneficiary. That determination was just made about a month ago. And then on the Urbana campus, there were substantial changes to the REU process. They are in the process of finalizing that they will all be paid through the graduate college as fellowships. And I touched base with the graduate college here, and that will not be happening, at least at this, as it looks now, on this campus. So I actually have a question. Are there any departments, any managers here who are in a department that do process REUs? That's research experience for undergraduates. I would like to know who you might be to be able to talk with you, just to see if there's any issues with the process here, et cetera. Any REU payment processors? No. But that, like I said, they are finalizing that on the Urbana campus. We still now need to work on it on this campus. So that's another reason for the delay. And finally, we realized we really had not clarified how to pay gift cards to a student. So we've added that to our draft revision to the payment to students webpage. Then real briefly, what is next? So because of some of the issues associated with paying, particularly travel, but other research expenses through the student account, a cross-functional team met after the DDRIG determination was made to brainstorm ideas. Is there a better way we can assist you in getting the necessary reporting we need and compliance with financial aid, but without, to let you continue purchasing travel on a T-card or purchasing supplies for research where the student is the primary beneficiary through iBuy, for example. And so what we're looking at is we have a meeting in a week or two to discuss identifying as many funds as possible where it's either a scholarship fund, which we know that means the student is the primary beneficiary, or when the payment is from a fund that is not specifically designated as a scholarship, but the student is the primary beneficiary. If we can identify those funds and then possibly have TEM capture those payments and report them to USFSCO for 1098-T reporting and to financial aid to adjust or to make the necessary adjustments to the student's financial aid account. So we're looking at that, and we're going to see if we can get something like that into process before we publish anything. Meanwhile, what we do ask you is when you know that you're paying a student from a scholarship fund or when the student is primary beneficiary, do communicate to the student that there are potential tax implications with that. The IRS Form 1098-T, the sole purpose of that form was to determine taxpayer eligibility for education tax credits. But beginning this year, we are reporting Box 1, which is qualified tuition and expenses paid. And then Box 5 is the scholarships and grants. And the IRS is increasingly looking at when Box 5 exceeds Box 1. So when scholarships exceeds qualifying tuition and expenses, they are looking at that as potential taxable income. The university does not determine the taxability of scholarships. That is the tax filer's responsibility, and that's what you need to communicate to your students, is they need to talk to their tax advisor or the IRS to determine taxability of scholarships. So if you could begin communicating that. And we're certainly available to assist. My name is John Hockersmith, the tax folks, tax compliance. Terry and Brenda will certainly are here to assist. But until we get this formalized, we do still need to start communicating this to students. One of the other things that we are going to be doing is after we complete the payments to students resource on the OBFS website, we need to move it into policy. Because right now, the business managers are frequently caught between a rock and a hard place. The professor is saying, pay the student, I don't want there to be any negative repercussions to the student, just pay the student. And the IRS is saying, hey, if it's a scholarship, it needs to be reported as a scholarship. And the Department of Education is saying, if it's a resource, it needs to be taken into consideration when determining eligibility for federal aid. So when we finally get it published, we want to get it into policy so you can actually go back and say, yes, this is policy. And no, it isn't just OBFS, it is the IRS and the Department of Ed who are mandating this. And then finally, we were planning to roll out a payments to student certification program. We thought optimistically we would have that done by March. Well, we haven't even got the subject matter published yet, let alone the certification. So those are our next steps. And that's all I have. Do you have any questions for me? Hearing none?
Thanks, John.
Sure.
As John said, this is more to come on this, and it's a very difficult issue, very many fine, blurry lines around this. So we will certainly reach out to you as we're formulating policy and ask you to help us understand what are the issues you're facing out in the units and how to make the policy as clear as possible. All right, next up, Banner 9. Banner is changing, and we are so excited about that. And Mike Neville is here to tell us all about what's coming in the fall.
Sure.
It's going to be great, Mike.
Thanks for letting us come, present this to you. I'm Mike Neville I'm Assistant Director in AITS. My group is a TAM Finance Group, so we support the finance applications at the university. I have with me today Ed Hill and Karen Seville, two of my team members. They are the brains on the Banner 9 stuff. They just don't like to talk, so they make me come do it. I don't like to talk either, but I'll do this. So what we want to do is kind of give you a little update on Banner 9, and then I'll give you just a couple of minutes on ViewDirect. Where we're at right now is we've had Banner 9, which is the next release that Aleutian's given us, and they're giving it to us now because it's getting rid of the Java component, which we are also grateful for. And it has to be in by December 31st, 2018, because that's when Oracle and Aleutian quit supporting what we're on right now. So we've got it installed. We had to do it because we don't get any more regulatory releases from them as of October, I think, of this year. So anything we would get for the end of the year next year, we would not receive. So we've got to get this one in. And they will not be doing any more updates to the release we're on. And what we're doing right now is we're performing tests of the new application. It says we're assessing existing UI modifications and impact. Thanks to Ed and Karen's effort, finance mods are done. We push them ahead. Student HR can't tell you that. They're still working on theirs. Finance mods are done. We've tested them. And now we've went back to the sponsors of like grants and contracts in all the different areas who had requested them because they passed our testing, but we wanted to make sure they passed their testing. We're also scheduling testing sessions with users. And I'm going to clarify that a little bit right now. We're not coming out to departments yet because we are back working with purchasing, payables, accounting, budget office, and all those, and we want them to get through it first. we're trying to find little gotchas. And we had one this morning up here, and people found a couple little things that in our testing we didn't notice. And that's why we're trying to a smaller group. We want to find these, we want to fix it. So then we do come out and say, hey, here's this new application. It didn't have bugs in it, or at least hopefully not as many as you know it could. We're also working to try and get the training materials revised because it's changed. I will try and say, because what you used to know as a form, FOIDOCH, FTMVIN, FGITRND, they're now being called pages because this is going to a more web look. I'm trying to make myself say page, but from 17 years of working with this one, I know I'm going to call it forms at times. So when I say form, I meant page. Okay, this is what the new landing page for Banner will be. It's called Application Navigator, and this is a welcome page. Depending on how your account is set up, this is set up, this is Karen's, and she doesn't have VPD, so she sees the one that shows all three. When I was on the project for a while, worked on student, got a UIUC VPD, all I see is the alma mater. So like I said, depends on how your account is set up. You may see all three, or you may just see the one for your particular campus. Changes on this one of them is, if you like the old boring way of drilling down to what used to be a form, now is a page, they left that in there. The first little icon up there, you can hit that drop down and you can just drill down through that. Don't think many will use that. Another option they did is they've got a little, like a microscope. If you click on that, it pops up a window that you can start typing. You can either type the page or part of the description, anything you know about it. And it will do a search and find everything that matches that and then put it there. Another option, which is the one I like, is right in the middle of that thing, there was that big old white screen. Once again, I can start typing a page, or I can start typing part of the description, and it's going to give me a drop-down list. And I can choose the one and click on it and go to that. They also have an icon to say, here's the last recently used pages. This morning we were testing, and I know Dan Wesley was doing some stuff, and he had me come look, and he clicked on this thing. He'd have been in a lot of pages because it filled up the whole screen. Mine usually looks a little like this because I get into a couple, then I bounce out a Banner. But I mean, at least it does show that if you're using a lot, it will do that. Like some of them are the changes. Like the big one is it's page layout. It's a spreadsheet grid allowed on a lot of forms, not all forms. Navigation is similar to other standard web methods and applications. There are changes, a few changes to the shortcut keys. We are trying to come up with a document to try and identify those. We won't get 100% because, as we found out this morning, people were teaching us stuff. It also has an enhanced lookup filter that we'll get to later. And it also tries to do more of a full screen display. So you don't have, there's still some scrolling, but not as much as it used to be. Here's the Banner 8 FGITRND form. This is the new Banner 9 trendy form. And as you can see, it's more of a spreadsheet. The thing that's nice about this is if I want a column that's over on the right, I can click it and I can drag it and drop it wherever I want, and it will keep it there for me. Which is kind of, so that way if you got some stuff that you really want to look at all over here, you can drag and drop. They've added some new main header icons. They've kind of changed stuff around. There's the add and retrieve. Those are used with BDM if you're attaching documents. You used to have a little icon you had to click on and you didn't really know where you're going, but you get into BDM. They now say add and retrieve. Related, those are pages used to access other pages that are related to the current page you're on. I'm not gonna say that fast 3 times, because I probably couldn't, but it's like I said. And then tools, there's other options that are controlled by this page that are listed under tools. And then they've changed it. You don't have, it used to be next or something, it's now go. And I think it used to be down toward the bottom right. It's now up in the right-hand corner where you see it. Also, the other thing they did is they moved the messages that used to be down in the bottom left-hand corner that nobody ever saw up to the right-hand corner, and they pop out at you. If you see a green message, it's usually a success message. You see a yellow, it's going to give you some type of warning. You see a red, it's an error. You know, all those informationals are up there, and at times you're going to have to click on that message to make it go away. It's not like before where the message was down the bottom, you hit another key, you went on and you didn't even see what it did. It will stop you and it makes you, do some type of function. They've also changed some of the section headers when you're in some of the pages. Insert, what it says, insert, a new record. Delete is also a delete record. Like in the current where you used to have to do, you had to click on something, delete, record, remove, record, and you had to do it twice. You do have to hit delete twice, add once, delete twice to make sure, not like me who hits buttons all the times with their mouse and I would be deleting records constantly. The copy is also what you used to do, the record insert, record duplicate. It is supposed to be replaced with the copy function. So that way you say, I want to copy this line and create a new one, you can hit copy and not have to do record insert, record duplicate. You can do copy. The more information is like, there's supplemental data where we used to add some dates and other stuff on forms. That's how you get to it. And then there's the filters, which we'll go into here in a minute. This is the way they did the new filters. It's like, it brings up a thing where you can start adding what you want to do with each, like an org or account or different fields that are on the form. The thing I don't like about the filter right now is it defaults to contains, which means if you find what I type anywhere in there, you bring it back. You put A on a contains of last name, go get coffee, go get drink, go get your lunch. I hope it's done before you go home that evening. They have starts with, they have includes, they have a bunch of different filters. We're asking them to change contains to start with, because we really know there's going to be a bunch of people that are going to lock their machine up because they hit that wrong. The other thing about the filter now is you can keep adding fields, as many as are on that page, if you want to filter it down as far as you want. We haven't tried that in performance, but it's you can do it. We will try it at some time because I like to see if I can take a system down. This is our email addresses, so I have it for you guys. Before we get to questions, another thing they had on here was a View Direct upgrade. Right now, they're planning to try and do a View Direct upgrade on April 29th. We just got the release to us for testing last Friday. I've done a couple little things, but I haven't done much. I was hoping by the time I came to here, I could have bring some screenshots of it because like everything we're putting in, it seems like lately, it's changing the way it looks. You still get to the same reports, but it's got some different things. What I'm hoping is that within the next week or so, I can get some stuff drawn up, typed up, and then send back through some of these groups to be able to get some information out on what it's, what it shows you. And hopefully, like I said, I wish I had more because I think there'd be more questions on that, but I'll answer any question now. Yes, ma'am.
So when you're searching or filtering, will there be a way that you can stop if you don't want to? Because usually you have to exit out a banner. Because
No.
if you're
Unfortunately, you put it wrong. I mean, well, you don't put it wrong. If you put it same way as you do now, don't tell anybody I said you because the DBAs would kill me. You X out and you start a new session, and then your session will run until we kill it because it's been enacted. Yeah.
printing option.
Oh, sorry.
So when you're printing,
Correct.
having used the arrow down to go to the next set of transactions. Have you guys come up with a way to allow us to print all of that set of items?
I don't think they have, and I'm looking at Karen saying, no, I'm looking, because I know she's tried some of those.
Maybe another option that we can tell about later is called export, where you can export the data.
So that's something you need to repeat
Oh,
that.
okay, sorry. The question was, is like when you used to go run a query and you'd have multiple pages, was there a way that when you print, you could print it all, and there still isn't. There is an option that we're exploring that's called export. As we said, you saw spreadsheets. There is an option that you can export the data. We're getting some pushback. Whoa, I do not like to hear myself. Some pushback on whether, they're gonna allow us to do that. I can tell you from a finance perspective, it's a great option. It doesn't replace anything else that we got, like with the warehouse or anything, but if you guys can export, some of these transactions you're working on and get it into a spreadsheet, you guys will do major things with it that we can never even think of. So we're hoping that's going to, and what we asked the group this morning, and we'll even ask you guys, business cases. I do not mind fighting with anybody. So if I get somebody telling me I can't do it, if I can get a business reason, a business case, I don't mind fighting. I don't mind being the bad cop. You can ask Gloria. I don't mind doing it. So we're trying to look at that because it's your guys' system and we want to figure out how it works best for you. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Without Java, we can use it with any browser now? We'll be able to use it with any browser, not just Internet Explorer?
The $5 will come to you later because you reminded me what I didn't say. Yes. But do not use it with IE. Internet Explorer, it will work, but it's horrible. Firefox and Chrome are the best. And I know, before somebody else asked me, yes, AITS tells you to use IE. I've already been sending my notes to them to say, we got to change our stance because certain applications you're going to have to use IE for. For Banner, we're going to tell you Chrome or Firefox is what it works best with, and that's what even the vendor is telling us. Anything else? Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mike and team. You can send questions about Banner 9 to my office, or as Mike said, he's given you their contact information as well. The functional sponsors and AITS are, of course, working very closely on these upgrades, and we'll get you information as soon as we know things. Next up, we've got Dale Morrison, updates from Procurement Diversity.
Well, I feel fortunate to have a mic working for me. That must be special. Again, my name is Dale Morrison. Welcome. Thank you for your attention. I won't be long this evening or this afternoon. The last few times I've spoken with you, last month or last couple of meetings, we talked about how to find diverse vendors, and I gave you some tips on looking at iBuy and CMS, the website, because I'm always here promoting the message of diversity and always trying to find ways to encourage our departments to carry the banner, and we're trying to make it easy for you to, I just did something. Always trying to find easy ways for you to participate in the process whenever you can. Okay. That's not my presentation. Yeah, I need to go back one. Like a screen. There we go. Let's go. All right. Yeah, I think that was my fault. Let's see what I can do here. Today, I'm just really here to give a brief shout out to our department. We are having our 2018 Professional Services Symposium. It's going to be Tuesday, April 10th, so that's a change. It was scheduled for Monday, the April 9th. There was a problem with that date, and some of you may have already received information about it. I know Obfs sent some information via email, and we do have a website, and all of those have now been changed. They've been updated to reflect the current date. So the date is April the 10th, 2018. Many of you should be already knowledgeable about this symposium because we've been doing it for the past almost 5 or 6 years now. And it's kind of one of our keynote events that we put on for the campus, and actually for all the universities to come out and find out more about diversity, and then to actually meet vendors that can provide services to your various departments. This is unique for us because it's not a simple, I know you've been to outreach events where maybe there's tables set up and you exchange business cards and say hi and bye pretty quickly. This is unique because we have vendors that actually have an opportunity to present in 35-minute presentations to the audience that shows up to the actual presentations. And why we want you to attend is because you are the people that buy goods and services throughout the departments. If it's not you, then it's your staff members that do so. So that's why it's so important that you, either yourself or you encourage your staff to please attend the presentations during the day. Again, it's 11 o'clock, and it says 7:30, but it's really over at 5 o'clock because there was a reception at 5 o'clock thereafter. But really from the hours of 11, from our opening throughout the afternoon, we have various presentations set up throughout the afternoon. And those topics include various professional services and different firms that we're presenting in these various areas. Architectural engineering, as you can see, marketing firms, facilities, hospital supplies and services, human resources, IT. It all depends on what you're interested in your department. So you don't have to come to all the presentations, but I would say select the ones that is most advantageous to your department for services that you use. But we need to get, we do need your participation. In the past, we've always had good participation from all the departments. So we need it again this year. At the end of, I did hand out a flyer. So right at the end of the flyer, there is a website that you do need to register for this event. So if you go to that website address, we do have a dedicated page for the event. And once you get there, please register, and you will select the classes. There's a drop-down menu for each of the classes that's available. Again, those are 35-minute sessions, and we need for you to attend, to sit in on the sessions. And again, this is an opportunity for these diverse businesses to do businesses with the university, to present their capabilities, for you to find out about them. So I know it's very difficult for you as a department to say, I'm going to use a vendor that I never heard of, I don't know about their capabilities. This hopefully will dispel some of those myths too about maybe small businesses not being able to provide the goods and services that you need, or maybe at the price that you want, or maybe just don't know who they are. This is an opportunity for you to meet some of those vendors and maybe make some connections there, build a partnership with some of these businesses, and hopefully utilize them at some point in the near future. And I see a hand raised, so Ms. Matlock.
I want to remind everyone that the small purchase limit has been increased as of August 9th to $100,000. And so that means that you don't have to have competition up to that amount. And so one way for you to expand your selection of vendors is to participate in the diversity symposium, because then that can identify a larger vendor pool for you to select from for your small purchases.
Thank you very much, Ms. Matlock, because that is true.
Repeat that a little bit, because
Yeah, if you didn't hear that, Deborah was basically reminding us that there is a small purchase limit that we have. Anything under $100,000, you have discretion discretionary spend to go out and solicit vendors to provide the goods and services that you want without going out for the big competitive bid that we know about. So what she was saying, like, this is an opportunity for you to meet these vendors that can provide those needs. And again, you have the discretion to choose who you want to. So this is an opportunity, if you don't know these vendors, to come out and meet those vendors. So this all dovetails into everything, goes back into the message that I've had over the last few presentations about going to iBuy, about going to search the BEP website for vendors. Here's an opportunity for you to meet them face to face. So we're always trying to find different ways, different means, different opportunities for you to participate in diversity. If there's any questions, I'm available right now. So are there any questions? Did I see somebody up here on this side?
I was going to ask if they were in iBuy and if vendor numbers, they're all set up with you.
Yeah, in fact, some of them are in iBuy, some of them are not iBuy. So typically you're in iBuy if you've done business with the university before, and you have to be in iBuy or at least in Banner to get paid. So there's always a vendor registration piece to it. Many of the vendors have done business with the university before and some have not. In the meantime, we are going to get them registered through the VSA process and get them registered as registered vendors. So when you want to use them, they'll be available in iBuy for you to find them. Okay, so again, thank you very much for your time, and I do look forward for you to participate and come out. It's always a great event. We have a great speakers that come out. It was well supported by the university, from the chancellor's office, from the president's office, from the board of trustees, and we normally have a very dynamic keynote speaker to talk about diversity. And I think you find it very interesting if you do attend. So again, the date is Tuesday, April the 10th. Please visit the website as soon as you can, and please register for those classes. So thank you.
Thanks, Dale. You give me an opportunity, because I was remiss during the announcements, to remind folks that the Bringing Administrators Together Conference is also coming up. That's on Thursday, April 5th, and we hope to see you all there. I hope you're all registered already, because registration is closing, but we've got a good list of events at that conference as well, and I'm looking forward to joining with you and learning new things there. All right, next up, NACUBO functions from University Accounting and Financial Reporting, Jessica Lannon and Ann Larimore.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ann Larimore. I'm from University Accounting and Financial Reporting.
And I'm Jessica Lannon, also from University Accounting and Financial Reporting.
And we're here today to talk about NACUBOs. Specifically, our agenda for today is to define what NACUBOs stands for and what they are, why they're important, how we assign them, where you can find them in Banner, and some just general resources on NACUBOs. So what does NACUBO stand for? NACUBO stands for National Association of College and University Business Officers. So NACUBO established functions to create standard structures for reporting purposes. These functions group operating activities into similar functions based on expenses or expenditures. And so you commonly see NACUBOs associated with your program codes. So if you have organization program codes associated with your self-supporting funds, your ICR, your state, you'll have NACUBOs there. Or if you use generic program codes like the 19, the last 4 digits is the NACUBO. Some common NACUBO functions that you probably see are listed here on the screen. We commonly see like instruction, 1,000, research, 1,100, academic support, 1,300. So NACUBO established broad definitions for each of the NACUBO functions. These are on our reference page that Jessica's going to show you the resource for later. The definitions can be sometimes vague, but we at University Accounting strive to interpret these accurately and consistently across all 3 universities. So if you ever have any questions on what Nakubo to use, please feel free to contact either Jessica or I. We will try to help you out as best as possible. So to show you how much they range and to kind of give you a glimpse of what the definitions are for each of the Nakubos, I have two up here. We have scholarships, 1787. Scholarships is very specific. So it tells you that it's meant to aid students by offsetting tuition, fees, room and board, books, etc. So if you read through the entire definition, it's very helpful. But then on the other end of the spectrum, you have Nakubos like Academic Support 1300, the catch-all for everyone. And this one is rather vague. It says it's meant to support services for universities' primary missions of instruction, research, public service, and economic development. So there's a lot of expenses or expenditures that can fall into that range. Again, we're here to tell you that we would like to help you try to choose the best Nakubo for your programs. So feel free to reach out to either of us if you have questions. So why are Nakubos important? So on our annual audited financial statements, we are grouped by Nakubos or by the primary costs. Nakubos help us compare by function to other universities or to ourselves in prior fiscal years, as well as other governmental agencies will use our Nakubos to compare our spending to other universities. The data is also used to determine budget, grants, awards, and other etc. type items. So, in essence, Nakubo functions create uniformity for financial reporting among higher education institutions, which enables comparability among different institutions and between different years. And I wanted to show you some examples in banners. So you can find your Nakubo by going to your program code in FZM PROG or FTI PRGH. To show you this, here's an example, but Mike told me yesterday at the UIS BMG that this is all going to be changing with banner 9. But to show you, the program code 201001 is an 1100 research Nakubo under the predecessor program. And if you drill into FZM Prague, you can get to FTI PRGH, and you can see the hierarchy right there of the 11 and 1100 to represent the research. So Jessica is going to go through the FPI form and how to request a program code.
Okay, so one of the examples of when Nakubos are important is with program codes. Program codes are used to track expenses. For example, if you have a new professor starting who has research going on, you'll want to set up a new program for his fund that just tracks his research expenses. And you'd want to make sure it had the 1100 research Nakubo. And you can set this up by requesting an FPI form, which can be found on our OBFS site. And if you go to Accounting and Financial Reporting, which you see there on the left, and go under Forms, there's the Banner Fund Program Index Code Request form that I have there in that red box. And you always want to make sure when you're requesting it, like when you request a new program, fund, or index code, that you use the new form. It's the one that's on our website, so try not to save it to your desktop because we do update these often, and there's a lot of coding that goes on behind them. And I hate having to call the units and ask them to submit a new form and copy expenses over because it's more work on you guys. So when you open the form, you see this box, and even if you're requesting a fund, a program, or an index code, I'm just going over, a program code. You want to make sure you always fill out the general information section. So all these boxes need to be filled out, and try to be as detailed as possible, especially with box 7, because when you're requesting a program, you select the Nakubo more based on the types of expenses. So box 7 is really important for this. And I have done an example of what we kind of like to see. So if you see them like box 1, those are box 1 through 3 and 4, kind of typical. They're easy to fill out. Box 5, we like to see, like if you're, like say Ann and I are wanting a new program code under the OBFS org for expenses related to undergraduate accounting scholarships. Well, box 6 we're using our ICR funds, which is the 200-250 program, or fund code. And then in box 7, we see that the types of expenses under this will be scholarships for undergraduate accounting students. And then if you go on, you can skip part 2 because we're just requesting a program. You guys don't need to go through the information to fill that out. If you go to part 3, it looks like this, and you'll have to fill out all the boxes, and I've done another quick example here. So the fund type that we used was 200-250, and you put the 6 digits in there, and with the title, you want to make sure you're using something that's detailed, and if you've left the department and gone to a different department, you want to make sure that they know, what it is. So you want to use something that limits acronyms unless it's something, typical. And then you see in box 3, this is where you put in the NACUBO function that Ann talked about. And so 1787 is for scholarships, so we know we picked out the right one. And then in box 4, you have your financial manager, your GLDC. And the financial manager is always going to be a GLDC, but you can request additional ones, and you can also put PIs, co-PIs, roles in there too. Part 4 of the program code, or of the FPI form, is for index codes. You can fill that out if you want an index code, but you don't have to. And we do like that you fill out part 5. That's where you fill out the submitted by information. And it's always nice to have that, so if Ann and I have questions, or you wanted us to contact you to help you on the NACUBO function, we can do that. So make sure you put your full phone number in there so I can call you guys if needed. And this is a nice chart that I use every day. You can find it on our reference materials on the OBFS site. It's the allowable fund type and NACUBO function combination chart. It's an Excel document. It's really easy to read. It just tells you what expenses are allowed under each fund type. So with Ann and I's program request that we did, we were wanting scholarships and we were using ICR funds. And you can see from that red box that scholarships are allowed under ICR requests. However, if Ann and I wanted to set up an accounting course, we couldn't use ICR funds for that because instruction is not allowed under ICR funds. And so this is a link to our reference materials, and on that you can see the second box, the NACUBO function assignment. That is the document that lists all the definitions that Ann kind of went over, so you can read into that if you want to before you fill out, requests for programs. And then that second link is the one that I just showed you, that Excel chart. And I use that Excel chart every day. It's really helpful, so please use it. And then you can also go to our Who to Ask page if you need to contact Ann or I. Our information's on the screen, but it's also on our OBFS site under Who to Ask. Does anybody have any questions for us?
Yes.
Yeah.
If I'm in a department, why do I care about NACUBO? Why would?
Do you want me to answer that?
I mean, it's something to tell people.
They're on we group our audited financial statements. Sorry. We group our audited financial statements by NACUBO, by the primary expenses. So it's important from that aspect so that our financial statements are correct. Were you going to add something?
I could add some things. We've been looking at, excuse me. We've been looking at the cost data that's being compiled, and what we're finding is that instead of applying cost into the instructional NACUBO function code, they're in the dean's office, and they're not getting counted as a cost of instruction. So when we start looking at benchmarking reports, it's really important to have this data correct. Another area, at least that I think it's coming, is that we're being pressured for how much our administrative overhead costs are. If we're putting costs relative to instruction or research or our core mission areas into general administration, it's going to skew the results as well. So it's an important reporting tool and comparability tool. So,
Yeah, and like she said, it's a really good benchmark. It looks good for us if we're spending, a bunch of money on research, and, it looks good also if you're spending more money on scholarships and stuff for student aid and versus the administrative costs. So, does anybody else have any other questions?
The NACUBO code factor the benefit rate charged to the fund. If we have the different, like for give the fund, we have different. I saw some of them, the French rate charge.
I think that's based on fund type instead of.
All that's based on fund.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna be mean again. You gotta, please.
Sorry, she had a question on whether NACUBO codes, if I understand correctly, what NACUBO you choose affects your fringe benefits or your benefit rates, and I think that's based on fund type and not NACUBO.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's amazing the different ways we slice and categorize data, isn't it? All right, next Scott Zalatoris going to give us an update on what's going on the policies and procedures side of the house.
Okay, there we go. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Scott Zalatoris. I'm the policy specialist here with the OBFS. I have a very brief presentation today just to talk to you about some recent changes made to the policy manual and some upcoming changes, including an open comment period that will open next Monday. As an overview and a constant reminder for as long as I'm invited to come here, please, there are a few things you take back. We have updates to the OBFS policy manual page. Every time I make a change, I update the updates page. The URL is right there. You can get to it from the table of contents of the manual. It's important because we do make what's called low impact changes that update hyperlinks, forms, basic minor information, but they are still changes to policy. All of those are documented. If you ever wanted to see what a change was or when it was made, you can go to that page to see it. As accounting also alluded to earlier, please also always download new forms on our forms page. If I update a form related to policy, I will put that on the updates page, but you should pull them off of the forms page. And lastly, the news service is the primary way by which we communicate policy changes, including open comment periods. I've started to and I'm going to continue to send out DDDHs when it's a major change, but please subscribe to the news service, or if you don't want the emails, you can always check the news service site. You'll see a listing of the communications. A recent policy update, and one that is going to be available, or we're going to be looking at in the future for additional changes related to relocation payments. This is primarily in Section 8. It's also in Section 18 for taxes. With the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, the major tax overhaul, all relocation payments are now taxable income to the employee. Any reimbursements you make, any payments to them are considered taxable income. You do have the option to gross up, but there are not qualified or unqualified expenses anymore. It's all taxable income. So because of this change, we're reviewing our policies. Allowability of moving expense reimbursement was based on the qualified rule for the IRS. That's not there anymore. So we're going to be looking at our policies, looking at resources provided, looking at the offer process done through HR in your colleges to see what changes we can make to policy, what additional resources we can provide you. So that's going to be coming up over the next several months. We'll be doing stakeholder analysis, reaching out to the different units in the colleges, talking to the university and system-wide leadership to find out what is possible, what is interesting to people, and what can we do to make this policy more streamlined now that we have a new tax environment. The upcoming policy change is in Section 22, self-supporting revenue-generating activities. More specifically, the service and storeroom activities policy, currently known as 22.4, is the main policy. And for Chicago, 22.4.2 is the campus supplement. So what are we doing? We are creating a system-wide standard policy. So if you have a service center, this will impact you. The new system-wide policy will reflect that we now have one Office of Government Costing for the entire system. We have one system whereby we calculate rates where things are recorded. So this policy sets that system-wide standard. The open comment period will begin on Monday, next Monday, and run through April 6th, 2-week period. You'll see a communication go out on Monday to the subscribers of the OBFS News Service with the link to the open comment period blog, where you'll have the entire draft to review. You'll have 2 weeks to submit comments. I sent out a DDDH on Monday to give those folks a heads up that this is coming. Please take the time to review it. We will have OBFS resources for this transition, for this update. The Office of Government Costing has a certification track program. You can see that on the OBFS website under the certification program. They will have training sessions. They will have folks here in Chicago to walk through these changes, open labs. All of that information will be forthcoming through the news service, through the Office of Government Costing. But I'm here to tell you today, you'll be able to see the draft on Monday, and you'll have 2 weeks to review it. So please take that opportunity. We recognize this change will be larger in Chicago, so it's a lot of content, but this will make us compliant with current regulations. It will streamline the process, and hopefully with the new training, we'll make any adjustments you have to do for your service rate calculations more streamlined. Like I said, very brief. Happy to take questions about any of the things I discussed or anything related to policy. As always, I'm here in Chicago. Email and phone number. I'm happy to discuss any policy questions, issues you might have. Thank you for your time. Oh, yes, sir.
Will you after the new policy comes out, revisit it based on the issues it creates? For example, the over $500 and less miscellaneous reimbursements.
So the question is, after a new policy comes out, will we revisit it to look at the impact that it's having on the system? And the answer, absolutely, we will. For the $500 reimbursement, the cash purchases policy, we are actively looking at it. There's the business reason, there's the intended consequences and the unintended consequences, and we will always look at them. And if you have any specific issues that you can bring to my attention, I'm collecting them, I'm looking at them, I'm seeing if we can work through the transaction to make sure it gets processed, but also to make sure that I've got a good understanding of what are the specific business examples of issues you're running into. So we'll always take it. You know, some of these things, the changes are regulatory, but it doesn't mean that we can't examine our own interpretation or our own goals. So absolutely, please give it to me. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Scott. I can also say, in terms of the reimbursement policy under $500, we're looking at materiality issues around that. We're also looking at ways to streamline that process going forward. So it is very much under active conversation. And I reiterate, if you have specific issues you'd like to bring to our attention, you can do that through Scott, or also certainly you can email me. All right, next up, Jason is going to energize us about MyUI financials.
You know, I'm sitting back there going, oh, I'm in the sun back there, and life's pretty good, so. But it's warm in here, and it's because of you guys, right? All right, so.
He won something from
Yes, I'm here to talk about MyUI financials usage, give you a project update, and suck up to you guys. So. But again, just to remind you about MyUI financials, what it is and what it's for. It's a convenient tool to get financial information, right? So we've tried to make it a tool that will encourage people away from maybe the paper aspect of the world, the effort that it takes to attach documents to emails and send those out to all the individuals that need it, right? So again, it's an opportunity for those people that need the financial information to log into the system, see the information on the dashboard right there in front of them, right? When I go to my Fidelity account or you go to your personal bank account, you log in, you don't have to filter through your neighbor's information. It's right there showing you your data, right? And that's what MyUI Financials does for you from a university's financial information. Who's it for? Just about anybody that needs the information, right? We're seeing some growth. We'd like to see more growth in the area of principal investigators, professors, you know, that need to get in and check if they've got grants, if they got information that they need to verify all these expenditures on a monthly basis. They're supposed to be, right? The grant administrator is telling, hey, I need you to kind of sign off on this, right? Give them access. We'll show you some reports that may help them with that process and go from there. But again, it's just about anybody that needs financial information. One of the things I want to point out again is the usage of MyUI financials and how it continues to grow. Right? We're very excited about this going forward. So when we launched MyUI financials, or we started keeping track of the information in July of 2016, that top line there is the system-wide activity. So July 16, that was 321 unique users jumped in July 2016. Right? At UIC, we had 124. Okay, so in the month of July, 124 unique IDs logged into MyUI financials. Right? And you can see that continued growth. As we approached the end of FY17, okay, in June, The UIC, we had 274 unique users log into My UI Financials. In January, okay, we had 291, a steady growth of unique users using My UI Financials. So again, we continue to be very excited about that. Overall, UIC, in relation to, again, system-wide activities, we're on that 40% mark, which is kind of where it fits, right? That's kind of what we think about population, things like that. So it's great usage. Again, we continue to hope to see more usage from everyone. This next one is monthly logons, right? We have a very large, those individuals that use My UI Financials are in it a lot. So again, when we talk about what happened when we started keeping track of this information, July of 2016, UIC, we had 601 logins through that month. Progressing, June, again, end of the fiscal year, when data needs to be easily accessible, they got to close things out, 2,200 logins, right? And go to January 2018, a couple months ago, 1,700, right? So we see some flux, and we kind of expect that, right? I don't know why that is, right? But we see this heavy spike here in June. I don't know if that's everybody doing their annual reconciliation process, right? We're going to reconcile once a year, and it's going to be in June. Okay? So we would anticipate maybe, more numbers hitting, from a usage standpoint, from a unique IDs. We're surprised it continues to grow, which means it's growth, right? But when we hit that 274 that UIC in June, we're like, oh, wow, that's pretty good. Okay? So again, we'd like to continue to see that growth. This last chart shows you who is using it, those college levels, right? So this is level 3 of that organization code hierarchy. It goes campus, and then reporting line, or can't remember what the next one is, like FN or JV, whatever your code is, and then the college, right? So right here in the middle, you can see College of Med uses it quite a ton. Okay. But there's Applied Health Sciences, we've got the library in there, okay? Ronnie Chambers, you my man, okay? CUPA's in there, Vice Chancellor for Research, okay? We got some administrative in there, okay? Everybody is using it. Okay, so this represents the top 15 of the 43 colleges at UIC. Those are the top 15 users, okay? But there are 43 colleges that use it. And again, talking about hierarchies, not necessarily college. So again, we love the fact that you guys are using this so much. Spread the word, okay? Anything on the statistics I've just shared with you? I should have come up with some kind of trivia. I've got nice pens in the back, Gloria. Guess how many users are using it, kind of thing. I should have done that. Do you use it the most? You need a pen? She's working the angle. I need a pen. You got a guy who's got a pen? Yeah, so. Any questions on the statistics or information before we jump into the actual updates of the project? All right. If not, we'll jump into kind of where we fall in because My UI Financials is not a, here it is, leave it, we're done with it, right? It's going to continue to grow. We're probably on that 12 to 18-month cycle where we're going to be having major releases, okay? And you've seen those things happen, okay? So this is kind of where we're at. We're in phase 2 right now, and we did a quiet rollout on February 22nd, and then March 1st, we gave the big blowout that we've just added the self-supporting and MSP, or the Service Plan Funds tab to My UI Financials. And what that did was that brought revenue as well as general ledgers, those assets and liability information right to the dashboard for My UI Financials. Okay, so it's all right there in front of you now. Okay. This also brought us one of the standard reports. We brought that into My UI Financials. We think this is one of the big sellers potentially for, again, the faculty, is the revenue expense year-to-date transactions, right? Because again, they may not get into it every month, right? Like you're asking them to verify their expenses, But they can quickly, from the dashboard, they log in, they see their 7 focal combinations, they go over to the report view list, click on that, they go to the revenue expense year-to-date transaction statement, opens up this report with all their transactions, the entire fiscal year, through whatever period they've selected, right? And if they need to print it because they love the paper, or you need the paper from them because you need the signature, whatever proof you need, right? Then they can do that. And we're talking about 5 clicks maybe. And it's on their dashboard. If you got 60 of those people that you have to send that to on a monthly basis, I think this might be easier. Okay. So that's phase 2. Again, we've changed our name. We used to have this OBSVS UAFR dashboard email. It wasn't very intuitive, so we got this creative idea. I don't know. Anybody know Allison Gaddis? She's the actual person behind this email address and who helps you a lot of times. If not, she's the one that came up with this ingenious email address. I'm like, we got to get her a scholarship, people. Okay. But this is what the dashboard looks like now that we've added my UI, or added the revenue and expenses as well as the asset and liabilities. So again, right there on the dashboard, you're seeing your current month revenues and expenses. Hey, how did we perform? Okay, we'll do the math for you, right? So we put that as one of the columns. How you doing for the year? We did that too. One of the things we heard as we were developing this was, from our advisory group was, hey, go ahead and throw in the encumbrances. We know it doesn't impact our, again, from a self-supporting fund, it doesn't really impact long-term aspects, but show us what our encumbrances are compared to what we've done for the year. So we've got this year-to-date less encumbrances amount. Right? That's what we heard. So we put it in there. From the asset liability aspect of this, again, here's your year-to-date revenues, your expenses, your income, your cash, other assets, right? Oops. The receivables, right? Your inventory, those other assets. There's your liabilities and the fund balance. Okay. The accountant's in the room, okay? I'm going to point this out to you so it becomes obvious to you. The people that don't know finance, they don't know accounting, it won't matter, right? Because they read it and they go, oh, they put parentheses around that to represent a deficit, right? So you guys have to get over the fact that in parentheses means credit, right? So we grew up knowing that was credit, right, in Banner, right? And all of our other reports, I meant credit, okay? Now we've got this set up, simplified, so that it's easy for anybody to read. We'll tell you it's a deficit with our parentheses, okay? So just remember that, okay? Good job, y'all. Again, here's the report list. So all of these reports are available from my UI Financials directly, going to that report list. Who's got grant funds? Anybody got grant funds? Okay. One of the things that's not shown on here, and I apologize, is the revenue expense statements year to date, or inception to date. Right. So if you have grant funds, and that's one of the funds that's selected, right? This report list is smart, right? So if it's a grant, it will show inception to date reporting capabilities. There's a complete list of all the reports that are accessible. Oh, let me highlight the one, sorry. That's phase 2. Moving to phase 3, that kickoff begins April. Our objective for phase 3 is to provide you with a search tab. That's our dream, right? Is just a fill in the blank kind of thing, right? You want an ER number, or you want a J number, give us a date range, search for it, we'll bring it back. It's going to be very powerful. It's also very nerve-wracking, right? Because of the amount of data we have to go through to get that information. If you want a range of transactions from 2015 to 2017, that's what we hope we'll be able to bring back to you in that data. But again, this is the dream, and we're going to try to see if we can do that. We're also going to enhance the role assignment process, right? So again, business offices are essentially responsible for distributing this paper, right? We just made it electronic, right? So you guys manage that. We're trying to make that process a little bit easier to manage. So you can do it right there, maybe on the dashboard, right? You see a focal string, oh, I don't remember that combination, or that's a new grant. I need to make sure this person has access to it. Click and sign. That's our dream. Okay, so we're looking into those things. And then again, one of the things is also the maintenance for this. And people change departments, they move, We need to make sure that on an annual basis, we give you the information so that you can easily change or update that information. Right? So it's not a headache, because again, it's not the USC that's doing this anymore, it's the business office that's handling this, right? These are just your paper reports. We're giving you an electronic access to them. Phase 4, okay, again, this is our cycle. We anticipate submitting a ITPC project in January 2019. Okay. So we are looking for user feedback. One way to do that is to, again, email myuifinancials@uillinois.edu. Another alternative is to touch base with an individual who is a member of the MyUI Financials Advisory Committee. At UIC, this is the list of those individuals. If you are a member, if your name's here, would you mind sticking your hand up in the air or standing up and waving and saying, hi, thanks, Alex. There he goes. Hey, how are you? Good deal. All right. So again, you can reach out to them, let them know, hey, this is one of the things we're challenged with. We'd like to be able to do. Okay, or email us. But this group of individuals, along with others from UIUC and UIS, have really been very powerful and very helpful when we've asked for information. We've sent them several surveys. We meet with them about, I think it's every 6 weeks to 8 weeks, get their feedback on things. So again, it's very, we appreciate your time and when you guys help us with that. As always, you can use our resources page, MyUI Financials, at uillinois.edu is another way to contact us. So, any questions? If anybody's missing a pen or needs a pen, I got some fancy green ones in the back. If you just have friends that would like green pens.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you guys trying to phase out Eddie? Or is that the purpose of changing over and creating this MyUI Financials?
MyUI Financials, if we really think, again, Pat Patterson's dream for this, I don't know if I used it, if I've got the, yeah, I do. It's this thing. Again, when Pat was in the business office, they used paper. I don't know if everybody still uses paper or not, but so it makes me laugh now that's like, I'm sure they've gotten more sophisticated than copying and photocopying and distributing and stuffing mailboxes. Does anybody do that? Do you guys do that still? No, you send an email attachment kind of thing or whatever the case may be, right? But the concept was, Pat said, I had staff when he was in computer sciences, he had staff that was 2 and 3 days at the copy machine, right? Making copies, and then they mix them back up again because they only came out in the order which ViewDirect or Banner or Eddie presented them, and they had to collate them again. Pat said there's got to be an easier way. The problem was Pat was thinking about that 10 and 15 years ago, but we didn't have the technology or the resources to make it happen until now. So we're now at that stage where we can do that and make it easier. We found some benefits to it because the data is much more readily available. It's an easy to learn software or application, right? So is it replacing anything? Not intentionally. You may find it a better resource, but it doesn't give you the same flexibility that, again, Eddie would, right? You get to fill in the prompts if you want to. Anybody going to the professional conference, the BAT conference? There's some very powerful stuff that Jerry Myers is going to talk about, as well as who's on the reporting subcommittee. You guys are doing some kick butt stuff with that too. But again, how we can manipulate Eddie to give us more access, right, or more details. So they're doing a lot of stuff with that, with Webby, business objects and things like that. So take advantage of that. But yeah, it's not intended to replace. It's just another opportunity for you to get the information in a way that's easy for you, whatever that looks like. So, any other questions? She's talking. I don't know what she's talking about. Well, you're pointing at the screen. It's like, are you going, oh, look at that. This is, you see, you gotta just click on this button over here.
No, I was just saying, the advantages between using MyUI Financials or creating web reports. I guess the reports are created for you already.
If you need, right, so advantages and disadvantages to, again, maybe Webby versus MyUI Financials. Depends on your knowledge base, right? Sometimes people are just more comfortable with this, right? For the most part, we spelled it out. Direct access to the reports already, right? So you don't have to fill in the prompts. So it's kind of like ViewDirect in the sense that The standard reports are there, you just don't have to click and click and click to get there. So the advantages of MyUI Financials, just go to the report list, select the FOP that you want, push the button. It's ViewDirect is month old, Webby, MyUI Financials is day old, right? So they're going to be the same time frames, but again, flexibility. Whether you Webby may give you the ability to roll up financial information, so you could look at a department level information or college level, where this is going to be very FOP specific. So, okay. The other thing that this will do, that MyUI Financials, there's a button, and if you guys know it, you know it. There's the export to Excel. It takes the raw data right off your dashboard. So whatever you've got up there, it'll take it directly to Excel, and you're not importing all the goofy titles that are part of a standard Eddie report. Right? So it's very clean, raw data, but then you can go do whatever you want with it. And that's the scary thing about the possibilities for the next project. If we can do that search tab, we can pull that off and not take 5 minutes to do that or 10 minutes to get that data to come back. Or maybe it's a case where you guys are okay with that because of the data that is coming back. Then off the charts kind of capability. So, sorry, we'll stay on time. Okay, good. Any other questions? Okay, good deal. Thank you all very much.
So I'm going to end the meeting. Gloria has said, do you have anything you want to talk about? And I thought about 10 things off the top of my head. But before I do that, I wanted to see if there was any new employees to UIC this is their first meeting. And if you are new, would you mind standing up and introducing yourself and tell us where you're from?
Yeah.
No pressure.
Hi everyone, my name is Abigail Richards. I'm the new accounting associate basically for the UIC Extended Campus.
Great, welcome. I didn't introduce myself. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Janet Parker, the Associate Chancellor for Budget and Financial Administration. So while we're talking about Extended Campus, I'd like to mention that unfortunately this is Joanne Malinowski's last meeting because she's announced her retirement and will be leaving us at the end of the month. So why don't you stand up and so we can acknowledge Joanne. I've enjoyed working with her. She's been a great colleague and asset to the university, and there is something I owe you, and you'll get it tomorrow. Right. A couple of other things. I know that a lot of people are asking about what the status is of the budget meetings that we had recently held with most of the units, colleges and vice chancellor units. And the chancellor did decide to release some funding, $5 million in permanent funding and $10 million in one-time funding that's been allocated between the provost, the chancellor's area, and the vice chancellor for health affairs. So we're in the process of putting together the formal documentation to notice the recipients of those funds and the purpose and the requirements for obtaining those funds. So that should be coming out within the next month or so. That's important because I know a lot of people are asking about budget for FY19. And I think that because the past 3 years have been so unusual that we've kind of gotten out of the routine about what our calendar is. But in talking to Avijit Ghosh, who's our interim CFO, he is confident that the trustees are going to want us to post a budget in a normal time frame. So of course the question with that becomes twofold. What assumptions are we making as far as our state appropriation, and will there be a salary program? In addition to that, I'm going to talk a little bit about pension cost shifts, and because that will also impact our budget for FY19. So if we are in a normal time frame, that means that we would have to open the budget development system in June or sooner so that we could go ahead and close it in time. But in order to do that, we also have some salary planner issues if we're going to have a salary program. So I'm going to be talking to him at the end of next week to try to figure out what the game plan is for the university. I know a lot of people don't have a crystal ball about what's going to happen at the state level, but of course, the expectation is that we will get a budget. And why are people so optimistic about that? Because it's an election year. Sorry, we just had that yesterday. How could I forget? Am I as optimistic? Well, I'm kind of still in the wait and see because we've been through trauma for the past several years. But if we did, say, for example, make an assumption about budgets being flat, it would have to be done with the understanding that there would be, if there were reductions to our appropriation, that those, we'd have to go back in and do a budget adjustment in Banner. And what that would look like would have to be decided. So right now, you may recall in the past, we would get assumptions about, plan for a 20% state appropriation reduction or plan for whatever. We're not getting those types of messages because of the concern in the past is that anything we plan for that would be a reduction could be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I just want you to know that we're going to give you as much information as we have it, as it occurs. But right now, that's what I know. We are preparing a list of questions related to legislative hearings that will be held April 4th and 12th. And then to remind you, we do have the University of Illinois Chicago State of the University address that the Chancellor will be giving the day before the BAC conference, which would be the 5th, right? Yeah. Okay. And that will also be at the Forum, or the Isidore, and just tell me what the name is. I saw it on Dale's thing. We just recently received recently received a donation to conveniently add the name of the Doran family to the Forum, so it's kind of, anyway, that wasn't one of my jokes. So then we've been talking about, in the last budget bill, there were 2 pension cost shifts. One of them related to the salary portion that was in excess of the governor's salary, which is $177,500. And so we will be getting a bill at the end of this year that is going to assess the university for the employer portion, which is 8.7%? Does anyone remember off the top? Anyway, somewhere around 13% of the salary amount that's paid in excess of $177,500, but for those funds that are not already assessed benefit costs. So the Chancellor has decided that for the first year, the cost impact for state-paid employees, which is estimated, and this is a real rough estimate because we don't know if people have left, if they're actually going to achieve that salary level. It was just based on a snapshot in time. But the rough estimate of that cost is about $700,000 for state funds and another $1 million for other fund groups. So we know that we're going to cover that first $700,000 for state-paid employees, but you need to be prepared to pick up those costs, whether you're in a state account or a medical service plan account, for fiscal year 19 and beyond. Another pension cost shifting that was in the last year's budget bill related to the creation of a Tier 3 program. That Tier 3 program essentially would have required us to pay for the employer's share of pension benefit costs for any new employee. That plan is currently on indefinite hold, and that's partly because CSRS is requesting further clarification from the state legislature before they act on that. So, something else interesting. For those of you that have not completed your Title IX first I'll stop. Were there any questions on the budget? Okay. So for those of you that have not completed your required Title IX training, that needs to be completed by March 30th. And so you might want to remind all your employees. I think that we just got a notification today from the Office of Access and Equity about those employees that haven't completed it yet. It's important that they do that. Some of you also may have been made aware of the fact that we are required to submit a comprehensive capital planning document to the system office by April 20th. Part of the concern there is that the trustees had noted that we're spending a lot of our operating budget on capital-related expenses, but we aren't necessarily budgeting for those. So there may be a requirement, and we're trying to figure out exactly how to do that, and I've seen this done at other universities, where known expenditures that are going to be transferred into plant funds. And we already know right now we have about $12 million set aside for repair and replacement funds Many of you have replacement projects that you're planning. We would basically show a line in our budget that would indicate that those are going to be transferred to plant. So there was a request that was sent out to all of the units in the colleges to come forward with any renovation projects that you're aware of now that you are going to fund. And the ones that we're dealing with from a central perspective, we're putting the plan together centrally. So, let's see what else. This year's FISHIA document that we submitted to the system office was probably, I can't remember how many pages, but 20 pages long. And I noticed on there that there were a lot of areas of partial compliance. And we also noticed that there were a lot of areas where people had partial compliance last year and they had it again this year. So there will be a correspondence that's going out to you and to your unit head, whether it be the dean or the vice chancellor, indicating that we want all of those partial compliance items cleared by June 30th, or there needs to be a good reason why you can't do that. So, and then last but not least, just wanted to mention that we do have a new vice chancellor for administrative services starting April 6th. His name is John Coronado, and he's taking the place of Mark Donovan, and then of course we've had Mike Landick as interim, so just wanted to make that announcement. Any other questions? Everybody wants to go. Okay, well, thank you very much for your participation today.
Next time we come here, we bring that mouse because it was slow.
Is it?
Yeah.